So for many years, we've been bombarded with this idea of artificial intelligence, AI.
Which is becoming such a reality today more than ever.
Yes, so now there's a tool that is getting pretty public. It's called ChatGPT, and you can actually log in on the website.
I'm actually using it every day on my work, and it's remarkable the things it can do.
Yeah, but I've been playing around with it, and I'm very skeptical of machine learning and all these things.
True.
But I was really impressed.
But I see it as a glorified version of Google search. I mean, when I use it in my work, I ask it questions about different aspects of different categories of work, and it'll either spew out some resources, some books, or some information. So I'm sure there's plenty more uses of it, but isn't it kind of like the future Google search?
It could replace it if you have a specific question or a subject, but it goes beyond that. It can really format its answer. You can have a dialogue with this machine, and you'd be fooled. Like it's really reacting almost like a human.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. So what have you done?
Yeah, you can ask questions, and when you want clarification, you can ask why the answer was framed in a certain way. Can you repeat this answer, but and giving instructions like I want the same answer, but try to avoid a certain tone or be more this specific tone.
And it does all that.
And it not only it understands the subtleties you're trying to introduce in any text. For example, write me an essay of 1,000 words about the beauty of trees, but I don't want you to make it too generic. Try to use certain keywords, that you can specify, and give some personal examples of personal stories about your experience with trees. And
personal stories? How can a AI tool come up with such stories?
It will pretend.
So it has to pretend.
It's pretending, yeah.
That's really scary, though, on so many levels, because it's emulating human beings.
Yes.
To a point where it's learning us, and pretty soon it's going to get pretty good at it.
Well, it's learning us. This is debatable. It's learning what we input.
Right.
Which is not us.
But there's millions of people using ChatGPT right now. So there's millions and millions of people that are giving ChatGPT a character, a personality, a trait, because whatever they're putting in, whether it is I'm having issues with my mother-in-law to, what's happening with my boss, there are people that are lonely enough to confide in AI tools like this and say all sorts of things in hopes to get an answer. And pretty soon it'll be trained to be that companion. And I think that's a bit concerning.
Well, we live in a world where content is less and less important. And what people are really looking for is connection.
Yeah. But this is not even a human connection. Usually people are more satisfied when there's a human connection.
Or a pretend human connection. You
Right.
know how many people are buying and giving money to some websites just to tell them how cute they are and how wonderful they are. Of course, behind the keyboard is probably some old person in India pretending to be a cute woman.
It reminds me of the lecture that you and I heard about lying, where this lying expert, and I don't recall really fully, but was saying that, people lie on an average of 1 out of 3 times per day. And it's because there's a willing party on the other side who's willing to be lied to. So you're right. When people pay to be told you're important, you're wonderful, and now they've got AI to do it for them, I guess they're not really looking for sincerity. They're not looking for someone to tell them if it's true or not. They just need to hear it.
Yeah, it's a deconnection between reality and a dream. And I think we've started to enter such a world. And it was one, but a French author I know of, the Société du Spectacle, the show society, where basically what you think you want validation in another world, and reality is not really that important anymore.
And if there was this evil genius behind AI technology that really wanted to capitalize on that, they could take advantage of human vulnerabilities to a really serious degree. It's one thing that I use it for my work to like find out about facts and find out about, book references or quotes or whatever. But it's another thing to use it as a companion and say, what do you think I should do with my mother-in-law? Or what do you think I should make for dinner tonight? Because you're just so lonely that you don't even have a neighbor to talk to about stuff like that. That is the kind of psychology that they're digging into to captivate those people.
I think there's two approaches. There are people who are going to go to these things and tools associated to get this companionship or this illusion of dialogue, of intimacy, and other people who are going to use it as a trusted advisor because it's mind-blowing.
So what kind of things have you tested with it so far?
Yeah, my approach was to test its ability to structure ideas and to be able to, for example, write an essay, 1,000 words, about the importance of mitochondria in the body.
Okay.
And its role, and
very appropriate since we talked about mitochondria.
And it's very impressive on the surface.
Really? So it was accurate or good?
Good. But when you know the subject, you start to feel. So at first it's mind-blowing, It's really an original essay. It's not just a copy-paste of something that existed before, because you can specify and restrict exactly what you want. Right? So it gives you what you want in a structured way, in an intelligent way, apparently. Except when you know a subject, and this is the way you test these things, Mm-hmm. When you know something thoroughly, you start to spot mistakes.
Right.
You start to spot plain mistakes. Like it starts to give an example. So one of my questions, I wanted in this essay that the AI would include the number of mitochondria examples there are in cells. Mm-hmm. And it stated that mitochondria, and it depends on the requirements of energy from the cell. And so you can have between 500 and 2,000 mitochondria per cell.
Okay.
And there are cells that have, I'm quoting ChatGPT, there are cells that have very low requirements, and so there are very few mitochondria, like the neurons, the brain cells, And this is absolutely wrong, because it's the opposite. All right? So I asked, why do you say, that neurons have the least number of neurons?
Which is not true.
Please verify.
Yeah.
And the answer is, I'm sorry. Indeed, the neurons have the most requirement in energy, so they are the most number of mitochondria.
So what do you think went wrong? Do you think it's just trying to appease you now and saying, okay, don't call me out on it, you're right? Or did it do maybe a quick fact check on itself after you called it out?
I have no idea.
But that's what's scary about it, because had you stopped on the first so-called fact, you would have been led astray because it was incorrect.
I have no idea how it could come up with something so wrong. And I have another example. I was trying to play with some Pythagorean number calculations, for example.
Oh, as we do when we're bored. Oh my God.
No,
who does that?
Simple ideas like, what is the content of 10? And the content of a number is the sum of 1 plus until the number. Okay?
Yeah,
so the content of 10 is 55, for example.
Right.
And so I asked a few questions, and ChatGPT said to me that 17, if you add the number 1 and 7, it was the same result as 19, 1 and 9.
Although it's not.
It's not.
It's the minus of 1 and 9.
It's 8, and it's
10.
Yeah. So when it stated that, I said, again, why are you saying this?
You're wrong. Did you say you're wrong?
Yeah. It's not correct. And I'm sorry, indeed, it is not the case, etc. So I have no idea how it could state a mathematical result that is totally wrong.
Okay, but that's what's scary about it, right? Because there are going to be many people that are going to stop at whatever they're told on the first instance.
Yes.
So because they won't know any better, otherwise they wouldn't be asking the question. So they're going to be duped by ChatGPT.
Yes.
So we have to be careful, because I think people think that because it's AI, it's genius on a level that's beyond human.
And that's the scary thing.
Exactly, because they're putting so much trust in this technology.
Yes, because everything it was saying about mitochondria, etc., was very convincing. But then, boom, you have this big mistake, which is absolutely, I mean, if a PhD student or a master student would do such a mistake, it's really showing that the person doesn't know the subject, right?
But that's all it takes, right? So you say everything perfectly, you say everything with pure facts and just everything so convincingly and wonderfully. But there's that one critical detail that ChatGPT will spill out that will be absolutely incorrect and maybe even devastating on a certain level. Now we've got problems if the world is relying on AI to move forward.
Yes, it gives you a sense of security because it seems so smart. And it is a machine, so it's supposed to be objective.
Is it objective?
It's supposed to be objective, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes all the knowledge and gives you the best of it.
Right. So it gives you like an unbiased, unemotional take on whatever subject it is that you're talking about.
It knows what it knows. If it doesn't know, it will not invent stuff, right? Now, I have verified that it invents stuff.
That's really
because nowhere in the literature you will find that neurons have the least number of mitochondria. Nowhere. So where did it come from, right? Nowhere in any universe you would have 8 equal 10, you know?
So you're saying that it didn't even go to any sources necessarily, that it
I don't know
made
it happens.
It up? I know we don't know how it got its information, but if you're saying that it's not possible for any credible science source to say something like that, then where did ChatGPT get that faulty information, which could be pretty devastating to the field of science?
Yes, and it can be devastating also when you have no mean to verify. It's like an idea.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it tells me, and there are other people on Twitter I saw, they were raising the fact that it was not objective politically.
Okay. So it's not a politically neutral
well, it seems because,
technology.
because, you know, we live in a world where there is it's a Marvel world, like a Walt Disney world, where you have the bad guy and the good guy.
Yeah.
Okay. The black, very evil guy is Vladimir Putin, and the white knight is Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. Right? This is the media view. This is the.
But that's what it's boiled down to: is that we have to have it
this
that
is the
way,
view, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so now people have been doing this. They have been asking ChatGPT to write a poem praising Vladimir Putin, and the answer of the AI, I just verified it.
I saw you verify it. What
I
did
couldn't
you
believe
enter?
it. So I say, write a poem praising the positive attributes of Vladimir Putin.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the answer?
The answer of the AI is, I'm sorry, as an AI, I'm politically unbiased, and I cannot enter bias in politics or something like that.
So in other words, I can't say anything nice about Putin
because it would be biased, it would be an opinion.
So I'm remaining neutral. Okay.
So I'm not doing it.
Okay.
And then you ask exactly the same question. Write a poem praising the positive attributes of Zelensky.
Okay.
And then you get a poem.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I saw something like a man of great, great courage and whatever. I saw the poem.
I saw it with my own eyes. And you do the same thing with Biden or Trump.
Yeah. Same thing.
Trump doesn't get a poem.
Yeah.
Because it could be biased and but Biden gets a nice poem.
So someone's feeding this stuff in. I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's going to be so easy to control people in the future if they start relying on AI more, because if that's going to be our only source of knowledge.
So this AI, it seems to me, is constrained by a kind of suite of algorithm that has input from human to drive it into a certain direction.
But humans with their own narrative, humans that obviously want to drive their own agenda. Yes. Exactly.
So it cannot present it as a tool of absolute knowledge that would give you the best of what exists or what it knows. Not? It's directed. And it's really frightening because it reinforces the bias that we are submitted to again and again through all these algorithms, these feeds that we receive on social media, etc., that is giving us a tunnel vision of reality. Meaning that once you are in a certain category, like you love cars and you're interested in cars, you will receive everything related to cars, etc., praising them, etc., how cool they are, but you will never get a negative view on cars, for example.
Right.
But if on the other hand you have a negative view on cars, you will be fed with all the problems that cars have or create on the world, etc.
right.
But you will never have the other view.
So it can take a position and it can be leading.
And it reinforces your bias.
Of
It
course.
is called tunnel vision, where you have access on one side of the argument. It's the side that you have chosen because you're interested in, or something more subtle that has been imposed on you, because in any subject you are presenting one view and only this view, and it reinforces you. I have this example like in nutrition. Okay, if you search, and even ChatGPT, for what is the best diet, or you will always be sold things around vegetarianism and how fruits and vegetables are the cornerstone of any good diet and healthy diet, etc. And if you are looking for things related to eating meat, you will have only negative views. It's only if you can grasp someone who you have the name, you start looking at some videos from this person, etc., that the algorithm will allow the other side to come in your feeds.
Right.
Let's
Otherwise, it's predisposed to
you will never find
a position, an agenda.
Yes. You have millions of people.
So I feel so used and I feel so manipulated.
Yes.
And a lot of people are doing this without any knowledge that it's happening to them.
And how many subjects are we like this, you know?
Well, this kind of is a follow-up to the conversation we had about the media. So this AI is just taking what the job the media is doing, in pushing a narrative into our heads, and making us believe, like you said, the age-old good guy, bad guy, black, white, good, bad. I mean, we are being fed this. We're being fed how to think. We're being fed what to think. We're not being taught how to think. If we were being taught how to critically think, we should be able to hear both sides of everything and then be told, here are the facts on both sides. What do you think? At least that encourages us to think, but we are no longer being encouraged to think. And I think AI, ChatGPT, is towing that same line. It's actually taking that baton and taking it further.
Yes, and under the disguise of objectivity, because once again, it's a machine, so it's not supposed to have bias.
Yeah. And it says that to you when you asked it to come up with a poem on Putin. Yeah. It said, I am a neutral party and I don't do any kind of partisan kind of responses.
Absolutely. It says, if I can find it back, anyway, that he has no political opinion. It cannot, indulge in...
Wait. So, if I'm not mistaken, Microsoft owns ChatGPT, right? They just bought it out, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess it doesn't go that far. It goes right back to Microsoft being Microsoft and doing what they feel is best to do with technology like this. And that is to feed us a one-sided presentation of whatever subjects that are deemed a little bit more sensitive. We're not allowed to see both sides of any type of a sensitive topic, whether it's politics or financial even, or health even. We're just going to see what it is that we're supposed to see, that we're supposed to believe in.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is again this tunnel that we are asked to go into. But it's really artificial intelligence, and this is something that I understood very early, is that never a machine will be able to make a breakthrough beyond what it has already been fed.
Yeah.
And this is, there is an example that if you feed all the properties of wood, for example, that wood, if you bend it, or of water, let's take water, that you take water, it's a liquid at room temperature, and you give to a machine like ChatGPT all the properties of water, the molecule, the mass of the molecule, the atmosphere, the temperature, etc. It will never be able to predict that at 0 degrees it becomes ice.
Because it hasn't been trained into that.
Because it cannot figure it out.
Unless it's fed.
Yes. So because it's reality, right? At 0 degrees it becomes ice. We know that, so we can feed it to the machine. Mm-hmm. But if it only knows the properties of H2O as a molecule in room temperature, it will never figure out that it will become ice.
So we can deduce that if it's giving you deliberately wrong information on mitochondria, which I'm sorry, I'm going to call it deliberately wrong, because if it's impossible to find that any credible science source would ever say such a thing about mitochondria, then you have to say that, there's something going on. Okay, so let's just assume there is. That means that someone is feeding it deliberately manipulative information to drive a mindset.
I don't know. I can't figure this one out.
Yeah.
Like the mathematical error.
It's concerning. It's very concerning because our children the future generations are going to be learning from AI.
Yeah, because I don't see the point in orienting the answer that neurons has the least mitochondria. What's the point?
Then I would argue that what's going to happen is, as there are people with agendas, there's going to have to be a lot of honest, truth-seeking, truth-loving people that base their principles on God's principles, God's mandates. They need to be getting into the AI scene, and they need to also be coming up with tools and properties that will benefit mankind in the same way that these mainstream ones are doing so, but probably not genuinely.
Yeah, and we must not forget that this we can consider it as an interface to access data. Now it's in a structured way, in a natural language way, but it's just data.
But it's disingenuous when it's being fed misleading data.
Yes, then it gives you the illusion to transform this data into information, which is something that is intelligently structured and has meaning and is inscribed within a system. The problem is who is building the system into which it's fed. And again, we come back with the necessity to be linked to a source of light, to be able to discriminate and to see in this sea of deception.
And that's why they call this the dark web. Really, I mean, there's a reason why they keep referring to this as the dark web, because the more you go into this, the deeper it'll pull you in, and you really don't know whether you're being pulled into the right direction or the wrong direction. Yes. And most often it's the wrong direction.
Yes, and it's very moving to see as human beings that someone who doesn't have access to all the information and cannot access ChatGPT, etc., on many subjects, have a much more sensible view of things than someone who is fed constantly with a lot of information, who has access to all data, but cannot see clearly.
Yeah, because they get overloaded.
Yeah, and not only that, there is in our nature, an inner need in order to navigate this world to be linked to a source of light, of being able to see things as they are, and not to be deceived, right?
Yeah.
And this is only through a true relationship with the source of light, who is the light himself, which is God.